And welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. How you doing today? We are so glad that you're with us today. We got well, Rennie just turned his back on me. It must have been something I said.
Trying to fix that background.
Oh, go right ahead. Yesterday, as in yesterday, we had a wonderful show. Oh my goodness, Rennie, that was the kind of show we like to put on every single time because we had fun. We touched a lot of people's hearts, and a lot of people, we told you, excuse me, you got a frog in your pocket.
Us
you shared,
always.
yeah, you shared some things with them yesterday that no one has ever heard of before. You really did. I mean, and I thank you for that. And today, let's start out a little bit, if we can, just a brief recap of some of the things that Rennie shared with us. And so I'm just going to call on my very qualified, very and highly intelligent co-host, Dr. Tanya Simmons. What were some of the
Oh,
things that you got out of Rennie's presentation
it was
yesterday?
it. Well, it's still resonating with me today.
Mhm.
In fact, I talked to a couple of my friends last night who are big time investors, and we were
Mm.
talking. And I told them about Rennie, and I told them about his story. I also told them about his ideas in regards to real estate and whatnot. And Rennie, you inspired me. You inspired me personally, and so I am now. I've got some goals in regards to real estate building and all of that. So I'm looking forward to implementing that within my life, and I'm excited about that. But some of the quick things that we discussed was basically wealth building, some strategies in regards to obviously multiple streams of income, and we talked a little bit about real estate and whatnot. And then we also talked about overcoming, while acknowledging limiting beliefs, where they come from subconsciously and consciously. We also talked about overcoming some of those limiting beliefs and how to do that. He also talked about giving back. He talked about his personal story, which is absolutely breathtakingly amazing to know. And it brings a lot of credibility to his platform and to what
Mm.
he's doing today. So never argue with a man that has an experience. And that is what Rennie has. He has
Oh, yeah.
experience, which builds his credibility. And he's amazing. So thank you so much, Rennie, for the opportunity to be with you today. And we're looking forward to it so much. Thank you.
And I just got
Thank
to
you.
I got to give you a plug for your book. I hate to cut you off there, but you see
Yes.
that wealth on any income. That is
Hmm.
what Rennie is all about. That was a song he was singing yesterday. But if you go to wealthonanyincome.com and you buy his book, 100% of the profits goes to the shelter to soldier. You can see him holding it up there with his finger. Sheltertosoldier.org. This is a wonderful organization that trains service dogs. Where they become service dogs, they're
Yeah.
rescue dogs out of shelters, rescue them from being put to sleep. And they are trained, and then the soldier who suffers from PTSD or any other type of
Traumatic brain injuries.
yeah, thank you.
Hmm.
They go there and they bring out three or four or five dogs, something like that, to see which dog resonates with them and which dog they resonate to. And that dog becomes their service dog, their life partner. So two lives are saved. The dog's life saved. And so far, every single soldier that has received one of these dogs has not, repeat, has not committed suicide.
It's
And we,
amazing.
yeah, and I just want to plug that out there right out of the gate because there's a lot of people out there who go, hey, we could just expand on that, and not only with soldiers, but for a lot of people, just everyday
Hmm.
people. That's the reason why, Rennie, I wanted to interrupt you and get that out there very early, because that is a very wonderful
Hmm.
project that you have undertaken. It's giving back, and also it's a win-win situation for you, ladies and gentlemen, because not only will you be able to participate in that wonderful program, but you'll also learn something too. There is a catch. Rennie told me yesterday, he says, Jim, you have to read the book.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Yeah. I can do that. But Rennie, welcome, my man. Now it's your turn, brother.
Oh, thank you. I'm just so honored to be able to be a major donor to Shelter to Soldier. And by the way, about a few months ago, my virtual assistant compiled a bunch of my podcast episodes where I read my book. So now people don't have to read, they can listen. It's an
Oh,
audiobook
goodness.
version.
Where's that website at?
If they go to wealthonanyincome.com and
Uh-huh.
look at products, they'll see the book, they'll see the audio version,
Mhm.
and they'll see another book I wrote called Attitudes of the Wealthy. And that's such an important component to
Yeah.
changing anyone's situation is
Yeah.
attitude.
Yeah. Mentally, you need to move out of the post side of town, because so many people think that because they were born there, that's where they were destined to be. And the truth of it is, where you are right now is the perfect place for you, but it's not your permanent place. It's a stoplight down the pathway of life.
Exactly. And I was just thinking today about my own parents. I don't know if I should say fortunately or unfortunately, my dad died when I was 11. And the reason I'm conflicted about that is he was a man who had very narrow thinking. He was a little bit on the bigoted side. So fortunately, a lot of his influence didn't continue. And he worked for his brother. He was earning $50 a week. He was happy with that. But times change. And my mom, after he died, was a single parent raising me, which is why I was a latchkey kid. I mean, she had to work, and they both had to work to support us. But the point of that is times change. And I think we're going to talk about a couples and money quiz, because a lot of people are in relationships and they don't get along when they have a conversation about money. So that's one of the things we're going to talk about today.
Right. Different styles, different beliefs.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we're going to touch on that at some point today. And the reason I bring that up is I inherited the attitudes my mom had from the standpoint of buy real estate because the tenants will pay for it for you. You don't have to spend everything you earn. When you want to stop working, you want to have enough income so you can do whatever you want. And I adopted those attitudes. I just believed what she said and followed in those footsteps. When took me a long time. I didn't get to really put it into practice for like 40 something years after she told me, but I finally did.
That's amazing. I'd like to say something really quickly there in regards to being raised by your mother. Kudos to her. Kudos to all the single mothers out there that are busting their behinds, doing the best they can, and pouring into their children and working sometimes 2 and 3 jobs at a time, but being faithful and diligent and raising up the next generation. And I'm telling you, I think there's some of the strongest people in the world. So I am super thankful to hear you say that. But it's amazing that you absolutely listened to her and you adopted that mentality. So that was she did a great job.
Does show up in different places. When my wife left, my kids were 15 and 13. So I was a single parent to two teenagers. And my daughter, it so happens, ended up getting divorced, and she's a single mom raising 2 boys. So, it's all over the place.
Yeah, my daughter is, she's a widow, and she had, 3 kids, and they're grown now. But I mean, she just, ladies just really handle that a lot better than men do, I think. And I really believe that, and that's because their focus is on keeping the home fires burning, And like we were talking about money and ladies and wives and all that you mentioned about couples and all that. Yeah. And I know some guys out there that say, yeah, especially some of my Einstein buddies, yeah, I know what you mean. You spend the wife's money without asking her, you're going to do some hard time in the hacienda. You got it. You got it. I mean, it's really amazing though, because women have that ability to be like squirrels. They can actually build a little nest egg out of nothing. And, I've got a lot of squirrels on my property. I see where they, hide acorns and anything like that. And we must have had an internet connection there.
Yeah.
She'll be back. Yeah. But anyway, my point being is that squirrels, they prepare for the future. And they really know how to store things and all that. And the ladies are like that. They squirrel things away, and they have little nest eggs they like to have. And it's actually very, very smart, because
Yep.
you're actually, let's see here. Was it something we said?
I got kicked out by accident, I guess. So,
Oh,
anyways,
okay. Well, we're
Yeah.
glad.
back.
Yeah, I don't think it was me, because I took a shower today.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
I'm
I did
back,
too.
I'm back.
I actually used deodorant too to make sure I didn't have any fruit flies following me around or anything.
No, nothing like that, y'all. Nothing like that.
Yeah, well, the point being, yes, women are adept. Like I was talking yesterday in terms of using intuition.
Mm-hmm.
It's more powerful and more effective and more accurate than intellectual ideas about, who you can trust and what will work
Yeah.
and what won't. And, I tried to adopt that as much as I could.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. Because, a lot of times your gut feeling and what just, comes right straight at you, that's the best decision for you to make. You need to get out of your head and get into your gut. Because
Yep.
there's been many a times when I thought, well, okay, I'll give this thing a whirl, and, it whirls back on you.
I
It's
know.
just,
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's one of the things that leads into one of the important items I want to cover today, which is
Okay.
the 3 areas that most people operate from when it comes to handling money or achieving their business goals, financial goals, relationship goals.
It's awesome.
And I want to talk about those 3 areas that we all operate from. And what I'm going
Okay.
to do, I'm going to show, because I am so ultra sophisticated and technologically savy, I drew this
talking- yeah.
diagram.
Yeah. He's talking crayons and cardboard for you guys out there.
So you've got 3 boxes. You've got
Right.
the small box here, which represents thoughts, because a lot of people think thoughts are powerful.
Mhm.
And the reality is they are not. And you want to know what's far more powerful than our thoughts? You want to take a guess?
Okay.
Oh, okay. I'll just give you the answer.
All right.
It's feelings.
Oh, okay.
Think of it this way. Let's say that I wanted to lose weight. And so I thought jogging would be a good idea. So I set my alarm for, let's say, 6 o'clock in the morning, which is not the typical time I get up. The alarm goes off at 6 o'clock, and my thought about going jogging is overridden by the feeling that it's cold, it's dark,
Yeah.
I can do this some other time.
How many of us
That's-
have been there?
I thought that was superior intelligence.
Yeah. So what I'm getting at is 95, 98% of the time, the feelings are more powerful than the thoughts. They are going to override whatever it is you said you wanted to do. So I got a 3rd box here, which
Okay.
is the biggest box. Any idea what that is? How you overcome the feelings that might stop you from achieving the goals you want.
Okay.
Commitment,
Sounds-
discipline, dedication, determination, any of those?
Nope. No, those are handy.
Action.
Well, that is required, but it's having your values, knowing what your values are,
Okay.
Mhm.
because when push comes to shove, that's what you're going to lean on.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, as an example, when I wanted to lose some weight and go jogging, and I recognized I'm not getting up. I knew of a neighbor. This gets back to team results are produced from teams, not solo. Okay. Wealth creation's a team sport. So I go to a neighbor, his name was Ron. I said, Ron, I know you go jogging in the morning. Can I go jogging with you? And Ron said, yeah, sure. Meet me in front of the house, 6:30 in the morning. We'll go jogging together. Okay. I'll see you tomorrow morning. Now, I do have the value integrity. If I told Ron I'm going to see him tomorrow morning at 6:30, that means
Right.
I'm going to be there at 6:30.
That's right.
I don't have to say, I promise I will see. No, I just said, Ron, I'll see you tomorrow morning, 6:30.
Mhm.
That alarm goes off at 6 o'clock the next morning and I don't feel like getting up. What do you think I'm going to do?
You're going to get up.
I'm going to get up because I gave someone my word I was going to show up.
Yeah.
Amen.
And that's what
Yeah.
it took to go jogging. And that's what it takes in all sorts of areas of life. Recognizing what your values are and leaning on those. It doesn't matter if it's community. It doesn't matter if it's relationships, spirituality, integrity, fame, whatever it is. When you are aware of it and you lean on it, it'll allow you to overcome the feelings that might stop you. And
I like that.
I
And-
like that too. I
and
like
so-
that a lot.
You know, we're talking about creating wealth. Well, what's the reason? What are your values? And if they're in conflict with your goals, it ain't going to happen, which is why it's important to understand how we've been programmed to be poor. And I think I spoke about that on Monday, didn't I?
Yes,
You
sir.
did.
Yes, you
Okay.
did. But go
So
ahead.
until you become aware of these things, it's hard to break up those conversations.
That's right.
Mhm.
So
So tomorrow morning, I'm going to see my banker at 6:30 in the morning.
That's right.
yeah, just don't expect them to be there.
Yeah.
Now, something else. We're talking about attitudes of wealthy people, you know, and that's
right.
the key. We talked yesterday about the three things that are the keys, the secrets that wealthy people use. It was attitudes, forms, and investments.
Right.
Yes.
AFI.
AFI. Mhm.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So the attitude is the biggest thing because, you know, if you don't have the right attitude, you look at the forms, you're not looking at the right thing.
Right. Right.
You don't have
Right,
the
right.
attitude and you look at some investments, you're not going to choose what's going to work.
Mhm.
So that's why we spend the time on the attitudes. And another one for wealthy people that I think is so fascinating happens to do with looking at the big picture versus the details. Now, you've probably heard the expression, you can't see the forest for the trees.
Yes.
Mhm.
That never made any sense to me. I didn't understand what the heck that meant. But it does have to do with big picture versus details. So I came up with an example that works for me. Tanya, you'll enjoy this. You probably taught your daughter what to do when she crosses the street, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So let's say that you wanted to cross the street and you checked out the details. You checked to see how high the curb was. You want to make sure you're not going to step on any cracks or dog mess or
Yes.
an open sewer cover.
Right.
If what you did as you crossed the street was continue to focus on the details, would that be a safe way to cross the street?
No, probably not.
No. What would be a better thing to do before you even look at the details?
Probably look at the big picture, see if anything's coming.
Exactly.
Like a car, a truck,
A bus, you name
a
it.
bus.
Exactly. And that's perfect for what I'm getting at. You need to look, wealthy people look at the big picture first and the details second. Ordinary people will focus on details instead of the big picture. Let's say that I wanted to buy a second house for investment.
Mhm.
And I go and I check out this house and the grass is all burned out and I walk inside and the carpet's frayed and the plumbing is dripping and the walls have peeling paint. Those are all details.
Mhm.
And if I let that determine my decision, I might have passed on a house that was very well priced in a good neighborhood that a few dollars would make beautiful. So I'm looking
Right.
at the big picture, which is it in a good neighborhood? And is it priced right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
That's the big picture. The details, they come later.
The thing that popped in my mind, you were talking about that is a show that I like, Counting Cars. I like that show because I like wheels. And Danny's always looking at the big picture, and everybody else, well, it's got rust here. It's got, it's dripping oil there, and they're focused in on the details. And he says, yeah, he just sees the end result of that beautiful car because his big area is the 70s, but he loves all older model cars. And but that's what he does. He looks at the big picture 100% of the time.
Exactly. In other words, when that car is fixed up and the leaks have stopped, is that something other people want to buy when it's in good condition?
Oh, they'll stand there and drool and watch it go by because, everything else today is nothing but a sled with a sticker on it. I mean, don't get me wrong. They're very well built and a lot more safer today than they were in the 50s or 60s, but they just don't have the looks because the house is where you live, but the car, that's your personality. That's where you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really does. I mean, why do you buy a black car over a gray car or a white car? It's a personal choice. Yeah.
Yeah. But what does the personality say about me that one of my vehicles is a 1945 Dodge pickup truck?
Yeah, you're a classic, brother. I mean, you love the real thing in life.
Yeah, well, but I will have to say I got it for free when a neighbor gave it to me when I was 18 years old.
Ooh.
So I've
That's
had
hard to
that
turn
thing.
down.
Let's see.
Wow.
This is where failing high school math fails me. So what's 18 subtract 73? No, see, I can't even do it right. 73 less 18, was that like 55?
Yeah, it is 55 because I took 20 off. That'd be 53. So I had two.
Oh,
Be
great.
55.
Oh, thank you. Okay. I've had that truck 55 years.
Wow.
My goodness.
I tell you right now, that's a classic, brother, and that thing is worth quite a bit of money. I mean, just depends on the condition of the how well it is, restoration.
It works. It's a working truck.
Oh my
man.
goodness.
Yeah, I just got to figure out which grandchild's going to get it.
There you go. Because those vehicles were built so solid back then.
Oh gosh, yeah. You could make 3 cars out of the metal from that one truck.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what? We mentioned early on about couples and money and having arguments. I mean, it's the number one cause of divorce among couples.
Oh, yeah.
So can I ask the two of you some questions that I would do if I was sitting with a couple? Well, here's the way I ask a couple to do it. They each answer the questions by themselves on their own. Then they come together and discuss the answers. It's like men are from Mars and women are from Venus.
This is going to be fun.
Yeah.
So
do we have to pretend we're married or what? Because if it is, I'm gonna get unplugged here in a minute.
no, it doesn't matter. But
Okay.
So think back. You could do, I mean, hey, you don't have to worry about arguing with each other. So just think back to what your mother's role in the family was regarding finances, and if your role is like hers.
Okay.
Your role, Jim, you're shaking your head like your role is nothing like what your mom's was in the family.
No.
Okay. Tanya, how about you?
Mine is absolutely. Definitely. She was, she's the one who keeps the books and all of that. So yes, absolutely. I mean, it's just me, I'm single. So, I mean, I'm doing everything. So yes.
Okay. All right. So let's try the next question. What was your father's role in the family concerning finances? And is your role anything like his?
A little bit.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit. Not much because Dad, my father never could read or write, and he understood the value of money, but there was no way he could understand, like the checkbook, like we got this much money in and we've been spending this at the grocery store, that at the grocery store. He never could figure out how we did not have enough money. And that was his world. I mean, he couldn't read or write. He was a worker. He climbed poles for a living. So, that was just the way his world turned.
Yeah. And just because he couldn't read or write doesn't mean he wasn't smart.
Oh no, he's smarter than
Yeah.
I ever will be.
Well, so let me ask you this. How was the money handled in your household? What did your mom do?
He basically just told her, he says, you pay this, you pay that, and you pay this, and she just wrote checks. But mother did not have any accounting or math or managing money was just not her. I mean, she was a mom. She baked. I mean, when she made her, biscuits and all like that, the hound dogs outside would start drooling,
I bet she
Okay.
was a good cook.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So Tanya, was your dad around when you were young?
Oh yeah, absolutely. My parents have been married for over, oh my goodness, 45 years.
Oh,
And
okay.
yeah, they're solid. But yeah, so my mom is very practical in nature. And she is the one that is very resourceful. I mean, when we were in Europe, we lived there. She pinched every penny she could. We traveled Europe twice. I mean, she's that type of person.
Mhm.
Now, my dad, on the flip side, he has extravagant taste.
Mhm.
Like, he is the silver platter for tea type of person. And so and they worked it out, but they have two opposing, I guess, perspectives in different ways when it comes to
Okay.
money.
Well, they probably had
More of a
something in
spender. She's
common.
more of a saver.
Mhm.
Okay. But they must have had something in common regarding their goals that they're still together 45 years
Oh, yeah.
later. Yeah. So
Absolutely. Yes.
So the point is how your parents handled the money, whether it was your father, your mother, if your role is like one or the other. You want to look at how those feelings might affect you now. And there's only 3 ways to respond to how you were brought up. You either do what your parents did, you completely rebel against what your parents did,
Mhm.
or you just freely choose what you want to do for yourself.
Mhm.
Those are your
Sure.
only 3 choices. But
Yeah.
most people only know of 2. I'm going to do what my parents did, or I'll never do what my parents did.
Mhm.
And they're not freely choosing.
Mhm.
But that's available as well when you're aware of it. And so there are more questions like that. There's like about 15 questions in one of the books that I published called Couples and Money. And, it's a great exercise for couples to have safe conversations around money.
So how'd we do on the
That's
first
wonderful.
question? I mean, I get a passing
Uh,
grade.
You did adequately.
Adequately. Hey, that's better than what I used to get in school. Blowing
I'm
outside for a ball.
Yeah. Okay. Well, now let's try something else.
All right.
Let's try.
Fun. That was fun.
Well, good. Let's try about paradigms. You know what paradigms are, right?
Mhm.
It's your belief system. What
Mhm.
like the Earth is round or the Earth is flat. What you
Yeah.
believe. It's your paradigm.
Mhm.
Now, unfortunately, as we're growing up, a lot of people tell us what we can do or can't do or what we're capable of. And usually it's parents, maybe a school counselor, and they are not experts at all. So I'm going to give you an example of what some experts have said in their field of expertise, proving they have no idea what they're talking about. Now, back in the 1940s, a fellow named Tom Watson was the president of a company called IBM. You've heard of IBM, right?
Hmm.
What kind of business are they in?
Computers.
Exactly. Okay. So he said the world, now we're talking about the globe, the whole world could support a total of 5 computers. Now, Jim, do you have a computer at home?
Yeah, more than one, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
So I got,
Tanya, do you have a computer at home?
Yes.
I'm
I
going to
think
venture
between,
to say the
I think
world
between me
has
and Tanya, we got the world supply.
I know.
exactly. And I've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3. I probably got 5 here. So we have more than the world's supply of computers, according to
Yeah.
Tom Watson.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Mm.
And if in the same vein, you've heard of Warner Brothers Pictures, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Sure.
Okay. So there were two brothers, Harry and Jack Warner.
Mhm.
And I think it was Harry who said, no one wants to hear actors talk. They were making silent movies. If it wasn't for his brother, Jack, and I hope I got the brothers correct, they'd have still been making silent movies when the rest of the world would have moved on to talkies and they'd have gone out of business.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But he's an expert in the field of
Mhm.
movies and what the people want. And he says, no one wants to hear actors talk. I think that was wrong.
Mhm.
And then let's see. Oh, famous one. And I think I might have mentioned this yesterday. Did I talk about Thomas Edison?
You did mention that, yes.
Did it?
Yes.
Okay,
Who invented
okay.
the phonograph and said it is of no
Oh.
commercial value.
Yeah. That
And
was,
we got Ken Olsen, president of DEC Computers. No reason for a
Oh,
person to
yeah.
have a computer in the house. Anyway, I can go on and on with what experts have said. Oh, I've just thought of a great one. Remember the baseball player Barry Bonds?
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Had world records in home runs.
Mhm.
His high school science teacher said, you need to buckle down and learn science because you cannot earn a living playing baseball.
oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if this teacher was an expert in anything,
Mm.
but the point is Barry Bonds paid no attention to him and made a heck of a lot of money playing baseball. All I'm getting at is as we grew up, there
Mhm.
were people who may have said what they think we could or couldn't do.
No.
They weren't experts and they can be completely wrong, which
Yeah.
leads into setting your 5-year goal. You need to
Mhm.
divorce yourself from what other people may have said you're capable of when you write your 5-year goal. It has to
Mhm.
come from what you want. And there's a process to do this.
Mhm.
Let me ask you something, Jim. Yesterday,
Okay.
you forgot about doing a commercial.
Yeah, I
Do you
sure
want to
did.
do a commercial? And then I'm going to talk about the ingredients for creating a goal that people can achieve.
We can, but when I chose not to do a commercial yesterday was because the energy was flowing and I didn't want to break the energy for a commercial. But we can go to a commercial break and it won't cost you anymore.
Okay, let's try that. Now I'm going to organize my thoughts to make sure I present this in the most powerful way.
Okay, before we go to commercial break, just like to share one thing. We talk about television. The thing that popped in my mind when TV first came on the scene. I mean, there was very few TVs out in people's houses. People in radio says, we're not going to TV. We're staying in radio. TV will never last. Radio's here to stay. And, well, you can determine whether they were right or wrong. We'll be right back after this brief message from Angel Marie Monticelli.
Hi, I'm Angel Marie Monticelli with Angel Marie Shines. And I had the pleasure, the honor to go through training for the 6-minute webinar. Oh my gosh, this webinar and how it's structured and how they teach it. Thank you, Speakers Pathway Coalition. Thank you, Don McGrath and the whole team for the 6-minute webinar, because you made it so simple, easy. And the way you lined it out with the outline, I can reproduce it and reproduce it. And I'm already getting the engagement. I'm getting people that are coming back that are saying, oh, I love this webinar that's so short, so to the point. And I love your products and what I'm selling, but then what I'm also the services that I provide. And I can do any of this because I have the framework. So thank you so much to the whole team, because the 6-minute webinar totally rocks. Thank you.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. And Randy's going to be sharing some great information with us. And our show is proudly brought to you by the 6minutewebinar.com. That's the good guys at the 6minutewebinar.com. And we're so honored to be here. Most importantly, we're so honored to have Rennie here to share his wisdom with you.
And thank you. And I'm so happy for that commercial break, because this is information I haven't presented in years. So I was able to make a couple of notes to make sure that I would do a decent job with this.
Okay.
So the
If there's
first
any
thing,
if there's any test questions, ask Tanya first. She's real good at that.
oh, no. You're not escaping this, Jim. I'm sorry. So the way that a goal is most powerfully done is to be written from the future, not from the present. And I'll give you an example. Let's say, now I've been a school teacher. So let's say I'm a school teacher and I want to know where I'll be in 5 years. Okay? So I can pull out a chart that'll tell me if I take a certain number of classes, what my income will be next year and the year after, and if I get a PhD or a master's degree, and I do that by the 5th year, it'll show me right on the chart what my income will be. That is the absolute least effective way of creating a 5-year goal. The way to do it is you divorce yourself from the present. And I'll go back to my example of a school teacher. Let's say instead of figuring I'll be a school teacher in 5 years, I say, I want to be a physician. So if I wanted to be a physician in 5 years, am I going to be looking at the chart on what my income is going to be as a school teacher? No. I'm going to be taking some different steps. I'm going to be writing some different goals. And let me give you the ingredients of them. And almost anywhere you turn, you're going to see the same SMART acronym for the 5 ingredients to a powerful goal.
Okay.
And SMART is the acronym, and the S stands for specific. Okay. Tanya, would you want more money? Okay. If
I have a goal of a specific amount of money and a measurable outcome.
Perfect. Now, when I'm in a workshop, when I'm in my UCLA class and I teach this material, I'll ask that question to the whole class. I want to see who raises their hand first when I say, who would like more money?
Yeah.
And then I walk over and I give them a penny.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this, Jim, when I gave this person a penny, did they get more money?
Yes, they did.
That's correct. Do you think it's what they wanted?
No.
That's right. It's not what they had, but the goal was not specific. Tanya's talking about having a specific goal.
Amen.
I had a specific goal of being
So
a
good.
DECA. Having a certain net worth goal. And having that target allows you to hit it. If you don't have a target, how could you possibly hit it?
That's
So
right.
it's got to be specific. And like Tanya says, it's got to be measurable. So in other words, how will you know when you get there?
That's right.
Now you can change it, but you've got to start with something you can measure. As an example, let's say that I wanted to be in a relationship with someone. I'm the one who gets to choose what the measurement is. And let's say that I want Diane to like me. That's my wife, by the way. And I say, if I invite Diane out to the movies and she accepts, I'm going to say she likes me. Now, I can't guarantee that's the truth, but the point is I'm the one who sets up the measurement. Okay. The next item, A, stands for action-oriented. It's something we kind of touched on earlier about the 3 areas we operate from. Well, this is where it fits. Almost any goal that you set will have some action component to it. As an example, if I want to have a goal of laying on the beach in Tahiti, guess what? The verb laying is an action verb. I may not be moving, but it's still considered an action verb. All right. So
Mhm.
the next one is R. Now, my interpretation of R is realistic. And what I'm getting at is I'll ask someone in the class, you know, who wants to be wealthy? How much is that?
Mhm.
They come up with a number, and I say, when do you want it? And they'll say, tomorrow. Well, I don't think that's realistic.
Mhm.
So you want to structure your goal in what you believe you can reasonably accomplish as a, you know, what's reasonable in the amount of money you want to have, or where you want to live, or the size of house you want to have, or the career that you could qualify for, or the clients that you want to have in your business, whatever it is. And the last item, the T, stands for time deadline. Any dream you have that you would assign a time frame to, you are converting into a goal.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
There was a certain net worth figure that I was going for by a
Mhm.
certain date,
Yes.
and within 1 year we hit it.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. And actually the term came from one of the books that I read, which was called The Millionaire Next Door by Stanley and Danko.
Hmm.
A great book in terms of showing the attitudes two people who make a lot of money can have, where one ends up with a large net worth and the other one squanders the money.
Mm.
And
Hmm.
so, you know, I came up with a goal out of that book and said, oh, there's a target I want to shoot for. And like I said, within a year we hit it. So one of the things we also spoke about yesterday is wealth creation is a team sport.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's right.
when I decided I wanted to write a book, which turned into Wealth on Any Income, I only had some handicaps. One of them was I didn't know how to write. The second one is I didn't know how to write a book. Third one was I didn't even know anyone who knew how to write a book. So these were the handicaps I was starting with when I chose to write a book. But guess what? Wealth creation, anything, it's a team sport. I shared with my ex-wife, who would have no care as to whether I succeeded or not. I shared with her that I wanted to write a book, and she said, you should talk to my brother. This is my ex-brother-in-law, Steve. Really? Oh, yeah. Steve is an author. Not only was he an author, have you heard of the publishing company Prentice Hall?
Yes.
They do textbooks.
Right.
He was their number 5 income producing author for Prentice Hall.
Wow.
He knew how to write books.
Oh, yeah.
So I gave Steve a call. I said, Steve, it's Rennie. You remember me? Yeah, he was my ex-brother-in-law. And he said, yeah, sure. What's happening? He was living in Del Mar. I'm up in Los Angeles. Said, I want to write a book and I don't know how. He says, oh, tell you what, come on down here and I'll show you. So I go down.
Wow.
I go down to his house and he says, you know, I clip out articles that I want to talk about. I have an outline. I create some file folders. I put the stuff in there based on, you know, what the topic is. I don't know. So he shows me how to write a book. So one problem solved. I have now learned how to write a book, but not how to write. So I said, okay, I'm a board member of the apartment association. They're asking for articles for their magazine. I can write some articles, but I'm not going to turn them in until I have someone else. Again, team sport, help me make sure it's okay. So someone I knew was an English teacher, and I said, would you review this article for me? And she goes, sure. So she takes out a red pen and she corrects this and corrects that. You know, the grammar's faulty. And she says, well, you've got the past tense and the future tense in the same paragraph. You don't do that. She says, I'm not clear what this sentence means. Can you explain it? I explained it. She fixed it. I mean, when she was done, it looked like this thing bled to death. There was red ink all over the place. And I said to her, "Oh my God, I knew I didn't know how to write." And she said, "What are you talking? You write beautifully." So what are you talking about? Your red ink makes it look like this is bleeding to death. She goes, "Oh, that's just editing." I didn't know there was a difference between writing and editing.
Mm.
And I wouldn't have known that if I hadn't written that goal about writing a book. If I hadn't reached out to my ex-brother-in-law, if I hadn't reached out to the English teacher to help me write an article. The point is, until you establish your goal, you do not ask the question, how? Because if you ask, how do I do it before you establish the goal, you won't establish the goal. The how-to can only show up after you establish the goal.
Right. Well, you were telling that story there. The one thing that popped in my mind is the story of Henry Ford. I love the story of Henry Ford. Henry is the guy that gets credited. I guess he's the one that originally said it. Says, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right.
Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And a lot of people back when he first started Ford Motor Company, and he got his idea from a production line by watching some butchers in a meat shop. The carcass would come in, and this person cut off that, shove it down, cut off that, and he got to thinking, wow, we could pull our cars down a line and have each stage, the mechanics, put the pieces together. And so, but what he was brilliant at, and what a lot of people were jealous at, they knew he did not know most of the things that he should have known in their minds about how to create and Ford Motor Company and do all those make all those cars that he did.
Yeah.
But see, the one thing that he knew, just like what Rennie was talking about, he knew his limitations. He didn't have to know metallurgy. He didn't have to know all these things because he surrounded himself with people who did know those things. And that's what's called the mastermind principle. And there were so many people who were jealous of him back then. They were saying, how can a moron or a country bumpkin or whatever they called him, how can he do that? He doesn't have any specialized experience. I mean, he doesn't know anything about engineering or metallurgy or none of that stuff. He didn't have to.
You know what?
Just
the same example exists today with Elon Musk, who admits he knows nothing about building cars.
Yeah.
That didn't stop Tesla Motors from being one of the most valued motor companies in the world.
Yeah, exactly. So
you're right on track, Jim. And one of the other things about Henry Ford that I think is really important, he made sure his workers were paid a living wage so they could even afford to buy the cars that they were making.
Amen.
And that's really important when you think about other employers who try and squeeze out so much from their employees, who don't treat them well, who don't pay them well. And the thing is, what goes around comes around. He gave them a living wage. They could go out and buy groceries and houses and his cars. And
they could have pride working there.
Exactly. And he attracted the labor force that wanted to build cars.
And Rennie, in your arena, I've got to give a shout out to you and say, your tenants who were able to pay all except one, able to pay all their rent during COVID-19. The reason why was because you reached out and encouraged them on how to build wealth on any income. On any income. You started helping them right there, gave them a free copy of your book. This is how I got this place here that you folks are renting from me to help them better themselves. That is a win-win-win situation. Because sometimes on a job, the boss may want to hold back a key person because they're selfish, because that key person can do some things that the boss cannot do and make the boss look good. However, if the boss says, yes, go ahead and go and take that job, and I'll put in a good word for you, by blessing that employee, he's blessed himself. When you try to hold back people and cling to them and drag them down, all you're doing is putting a shackle around your own neck.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're violating the laws of the universe.
Mhm.
I mean, you know,
that employee can train his replacement. That's what I've done
yes.
with my assistants. My assistant would tell me, I've got this other job opportunity, and so I'm going to give you notice. And I'd say, terrific, please train my replacement. You've done such a great job. And, you know, you're absolutely right. A lot of my tenants, by the way, have stopped, rented from me, and gone on to buy houses. And one of them went on to buy his own multi-unit property.
I think that is wonderful.
Yeah.
That is wonderful.
And you have built a friend for life there in that individual, haven't you?
He's gotten back to me. He is so grateful for, you know, having rented from me that's created his wealth. And, you know, one of the things that we haven't talked about, we've talked about poverty and prosperity thinking. Well, this has to do with scarcity thinking or prosperity thinking also. And the employer who has an employee he wants to hold back is operating out of scarcity. He's operating out of fear. He's not operating out of a prosperity mindset. And that is so important, Jim. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah, because he's going to be bankrupt on the inside out.
Yeah.
And when you're bankrupt on the inside, I mean, your ship is sunk because you're going against the universal laws of the creator and everything. I mean, you're totally out of balance with the universe. And, you know, that's kind of like going out and screaming at the sun and try to get it to rise in the west and set in the east. You ain't going to get that boat to float either, you know?
Yeah, hard as you want to yell, it ain't changing anything.
That's right. That's right. And so many people enslave themselves like that. And they make not only themselves miserable, but a lot of people around them.
So,
you know,
anyway, I mean, so I've given you the keys to write a 5-year goal. Let's just take a moment before we run out of time. Let me have you write down something important that you want to accomplish that's 5 years down the road. And then I'm going to ask you some more questions.
Okay. How to get younger and better looking.
Remember realistic. Remember the
realistic. Okay. All right. Boy, you took the slack out of the chain there and the fun too. See, 5 years.
This will be good for your viewers, your listeners, however they're consuming this, to do this for themselves as well and not put it off till later.
Yeah. And you learn from me, you got to be realistic on this. Okay. So. Okay.
All right. Now, one of the things that I've noticed on the first step to any goal that you want to accomplish, I don't care what it is. If it's not something you're already working on, the first step is always going to be research in one of two ways. Research, whether it's at a library, on Google, or whatever it is you need to do as your first step, or with a person. As an example, getting back to when I talked about the school teacher who wants to be a doctor. The first step would be maybe to go to the library or search online. What do you need? What's the first thing you need to do if you want to become a doctor? And it's usually taking some sort of test to get into a school that'll teach medicine or whatever. Or you can go to your own doctor and say, I'd like to become a doctor. What's the first thing I should do?
Yeah.
So when you got it down to what the first step is, you can see how easy it is to get to where you want to be in 5 years. And again,
that's right.
Team sport, not a solo sport. Oh, it looks like the internet went out for all of us for a moment.
Oh, it did. I just had I just took a trip around Jupiter and came back.
Astral planing or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Tanya, Jim, do you want to share what you wrote for 5 years down the road?
Go ahead, Tanya.
Sure. I wrote have a multi-million-dollar revenue in regards to revenue for my own personal coaching business. I want that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So is that going to come from products? Is that going to come from people? Is it going to come from a membership? Do you know what it's going to be coming from?
Absolutely. So it would be coming from products, yes, but membership as far as clients one-on-one as well. And I have a specific number beside that in regards to how many clients I want per year.
Okay, great. So what's the first step? And I'm guessing you're already working on this. Is that correct?
I am.
Okay. So what's
Winky
the
wink.
next? So what's the next step that you need to take toward that goal?
Yeah, so probably the next step would be in relation to just expanding my client base. And then obviously finding, I know my ideal client, I know my target audience. But as far as marketing and things like that, I think there are some other things I could be doing as well. I already have a mentor coach involved. And so I think developing new systems, maybe, or maybe more efficient systems in regards to helping me achieve that goal might be the way I would kind of look towards in that area. Not quite. Do you have any ideas?
I've got more questions.
Okay.
So in looking at your ideal client, what do you think is the easiest way to reach that ideal client?
Yeah, so I think certain people have said, setting up groups and then obviously, having one-on-ones with different people, increasing your social media, but organically, obviously.
Oh, your audio cut out for a moment. But the reason I'm going through the questions is to hone down to exactly what you need to do to reach that ideal client. As an example, let's say that person is the owner of a company with 100 employees. You know the name of the company, you know his name, and you can find him on LinkedIn.
Yes.
And then you find out, who do you know in your circle who knows that person? And then you can reach out directly. I'm getting at having a specific way to reach specific people you want to be your clients.
Right. So that would be considering
not general, not groups, not media, not social media,
right.
not generalities, specifics.
Right. I love that. Like leveraging your contacts.
Exactly. Team sport.
Got it. I love that. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. You're welcome. Jim, we got about a couple minutes left. So I'm thinking,
ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you tuning in today. We're out of time. No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, what are we going to cover on day 3? And then I'll ask you about, what you've got going for you. But
5-year plan. I wrote down 2 apartment buildings.
Oh, terrific. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
And I've kind of thought about it in the back of my mind, but I want to say, okay, 60 months, 2.
And
not
how
just
many units? How many units in each?
Probably about 20.
Okay, so talking about 40 units. You buy 20 units at a time, or 15 and 25, or however it adds up.
Yeah,
don't care. Okay.
Yeah, that's the details. I'm with the bigger picture.
That's right. So now, who can you reach out to find that first building?
This man, well, one of the guys, I'm going to pick his brains. His email address is renniegabriel@gmail.com. Okay. And I'm going to talk to realtors in the area. That's because what works in California or North Carolina may be different than in Texas.
That's correct.
And
I've
I
been to
want to
Texas.
be, yeah, and I want to find out, the nuts and bolts of it as far as, taxes and, that sort of thing. And
I can give you those answers
okay.
about what you need to do and who to talk to in Texas.
Okay, Alredo. See, that team sport, I like that. Even Barry Bonds hit those home runs. He had to have a pitcher throw the ball.
That's right. He had to have teammates to back him up. You got it.
Oh, yeah.
So tomorrow,
Mhm.
we're going to talk about the financial forms to
Yeah.
eliminate debt, to find out
Mhm.
how close you are to having financial freedom or
Mhm.
complete financial choice. Where's your money coming from? Where's it going? How do you judge if you're spending money where you want to be spending it? And 5,000-year-old secret that has been working since 5,000 years ago. And we'll talk a little bit more about how the wealthy think when they hear familiar information.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being with us today, Rennie. We're looking forward to tomorrow. I'm gonna lose sleep over that 5,000-year-old secret. I probably won't be able to figure it out between now and next show time, but we'll work on it and hope I don't have any brain cramps in the process. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in today. We're so glad that you're here and tuning in, and be sure and share this wonderful information with others. We are totally out of time, and we'll be back same place, same time, same station, same people. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a blessed evening. Take care of yourself. And most importantly, love yourself. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.